The team at Technology for Hotels knows how busy you are, so we've created this concise briefing to keep you up to date on key happenings in the hotel industry. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the 5-Star Weekly Briefing, your pulse on the hospitality industry.
This week's briefing is brought to you by Canary Technologies, the #1-rated guest experience platform, helping hotels eliminate paperwork and boost revenue through seamless digital check-in and upselling.
Well, I have to say, it is quite the Friday to be unpacking all this. Today is the 17th of April, 2026, and we have a lot to get through.
You really do.
Because, whether you are managing some tiny, intimate boutique property down the coast or like a sprawling multinational resort complex, the narrative from our sources is just unmistakable right now.
Yeah, the modern guest journey has, it's just completely evolved.
Exactly. We're seeing this massive recalibration. Like the industry is transitioning from just building standard luxury spaces to aggressively acquiring immersive heritage assets and, of course, pouring just a staggering amount of funding into the tech that holds it all together.
So true. It really feels like operators just can't get away with building those one-size-fits-all boxes anymore, right?
Right, totally. The guest profile has fractured into these highly specific archetypes. So let's look at Outrigger Resorts and Hotels for a start.
Okay, yeah.
They just launched their Premier Suite collection. And I mean, this is a massive global rollout. We're talking brand new pool burrs at their Fiji beach resort, major upgrades at the Reef Waikiki, plus repositioning assets in Thailand and the Maldives.
Oh, wow. So a really broad sweep.
Yeah. Sean D., their chief commercial officer, is driving this, and the whole thing is completely focused on the multi-generational and residential style luxury markets.
Wait, let me stop you right there. Residential style luxury.
Yeah, residential style.
I mean, to me, this just sounds entirely like the Airbnb-ification of the luxury resort sector.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Right. Like, are traditional hotels just throwing their hands up and conceding defeat to short-term rentals? It's like, oh, you want a huge house with a kitchen for your whole extended family? Sign, we'll build it to beat them at their own game.
Yeah, I get that comparison. But I wouldn't call it a concession, I think it's more of an escalation.
An escalation? How so?
Well, the short-term rental market proved that multi-generational travelers, they want shared spaces. They want to be able to put the kids to bed and still have a lounge room to share a bottle of wine.
Oh, absolutely. That is the whole appeal.
But the fatal flaw with those rentals is that you never know what you're going to get. The quality control is just, it's roulette.
Right. The photos look great, but the mattress is a rock.
Exactly. So Outrigger is bringing that residential footprint into a strict 5-star ecosystem. You get the sprawling space of a private villa, but engineered with commercial-grade reliability. World-class concierge, perfect linens, resort pools.
Right, so you get the communal kitchen, but you don't have to stress about taking the recycling out before you check out.
Exactly. No chores on your holiday.
But wait, for anyone not deeply familiar with the Pacific market, what exactly is a pool burr?
So a traditional burr is a Fijian wood and straw hut. But in this context, Outrigger has completely elevated that. It's an ultra-luxury, standalone villa featuring its own private plunge pool. And the economics behind it are super clever. Instead of a family booking 3 separate standard hotel rooms, which creates a huge logistical headache for everybody, they just book one premium pool burr.
Right, which bumps up the average daily rate for that one asset.
Exactly. That high ADR easily justifies the extra housekeeping costs, and the resort captures that entire family's food and beverage spend.
Makes total sense. And, we're seeing that structural shift toward premium assets locally, too. Like down in Victoria, the Crowne Plaza Geelong has officially opened right on the waterfront.
Oh, yeah, that is a huge one.
Yeah, a $130 million development.
Which is a massive capital injection for a regional center.
Definitely. Plenary Group developed it, and IHG is operating the 200 rooms. And they've got Paul Crowe from Plenary and Matthew Tripolone from IHG heading it up, with John Dixon as the GM.
It really signals how much the regional market has matured.
Yeah, post-2020 decentralization really changed the game. Regional cities like Geelong aren't just weekend stopovers anymore. They're hosting major corporate retreats that demand institutional-grade infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you look at IHG's inner city strategy, it's completely different. Have you seen the new Crowne Plaza Melbourne Carlton?
I have. It's the first internationally branded hotel in that precinct.
Yeah, exactly. But what's clever is they didn't just drop a generic corporate restaurant into the neighborhood.
Oh, because Carlton is basically the heart of Melbourne's Italian dining scene.
Right, Lygon Street is right there. So they integrated a street-level Italian dining concept called Fico Restaurant and Bar.
Which you just have to do. If you open a standard buffet there, the locals will ignore it, and your guests will just walk down the street for authentic pasta.
Spot on. And the GM, Anne-Marie Lennon, has a highly strategic commercial team backing this. Mark Smith came over from the Intercontinental Sorrento to lead marketing, and they've got Louise Pine on sales.
Nice.
Plus, executive chef Patrick Chung is tasked with actually making FICO a legitimate competitor in that fiercely contested market.
It's such a delicate balance,
Yeah.
you know? Leveraging the massive distribution power of IHG while maintaining real street-level credibility.
Very true.
And speaking of blending totally different worlds, let's talk about what Langham Hospitality Group is doing in China.
Oh, this is fascinating.
Yeah, so they just signed an agreement to debut the Langham Jinan in 2029. It's their first property in the Shandong province.
Right, in that century-old Honglu business district.
Exactly. But the context is wild because this area is rapidly becoming a massive hub for quantum technology and AI.
Yeah, it's a huge tech center.
But Langham CEO, Bob Van den Noord, is putting a 286-room ultra-luxury hotel there, featuring their traditional holistic Chuan spa and their 3 Michelin-star Cantonese restaurant, Tang Court.
The juxtaposition is just striking.
It almost feels contradictory, right? Like you have quantum computing executives leaving sterile labs and walking into ancient holistic wellness.
I actually think it's highly deliberate.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. When an executive spends 12 hours dealing with hyper-complex, intangible tech frameworks, they don't want to go back to a hotel that feels like a spaceship.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense.
They crave deep, tactile luxury. They want the permanence of a Michelin-starred meal and a massage to offset all that digital fatigue.
Grounding the tech traveler. I really like that.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a similar hyper-targeted design philosophy in Japan with Centaura Hotels and Resorts.
Right, the new Centaura Life Namba Hotel Osaka.
Yep, catering specifically to what they call the smart traveler. Andy No is the cluster GM over there, managing this new 300-room property alongside their existing Centaura Grand.
I love their rooftop lounge, Isora.
It's stunning, but their operational core is entirely focused on elevated essentials.
Which is perfect for the smart traveler. I mean, these are highly self-sufficient guests who prioritize frictionless experiences over traditional bellhop service.
They just want high-speed connectivity and flawless aesthetic.
Exactly. Flexible social spaces without the bloated costs of legacy amenities they're never going to use anyway.
Right. But obviously, building these highly specific psychological sanctuaries from scratch, that takes years of development.
Sometimes decades.
So what happens when an operator wants to capture that authenticity immediately? That brings us to our second major theme.
Yeah, the strategic pivot from building physical spaces to acquiring and upgrading heritage assets.
Because you just cannot manufacture a century of history.
You really can't. And Intrepid Travel is demonstrating this shift brilliantly.
Oh, the cattle station deal.
Yes. They just bought the Ooraminna Station homestead. It's this sprawling 200-hectare outback cattle property right near Alice Springs.
200 hectares. That is massive.
It's huge. Brett Mitchell, Intrepid's ANZ managing director, spearheaded the deal. And it's basically the cornerstone of their 2030 strategy to move beyond just running tours into actually owning nature-based domestic accommodations.
Okay, I have to push back a bit on this one, too.
Go for it.
Intrepid is historically a tour company, right?
Yeah.
Their core competency is moving people from point A to point B.
True.
So buying a massive cattle station, is this kind of like Netflix deciding to just open and operate physical movie theaters?
I mean, that is a phenomenal analogy.
Yeah.
Mechanically, that is exactly what is happening. Think about why Netflix started producing its own movies. They realized they couldn't rely on licensing external content forever. They had to own the supply chain.
Okay, yeah.
So Intrepid is executing that exact same vertical integration. The demand for authentic outback stays is surging. If they rely on third-party stations, they are entirely at the mercy of some other owner's availability and quality standards.
And sustainability practices, too, probably.
Exactly. By owning the 200 hectares outright, they control the narrative, the environmental impact, and the end-to-end guest experience.
They are verticalizing the outback.
They are, and local government loves it. Marie-Claire Boothby, the NT Minister for Tourism, and Susanna Bishop, the Tourism and Events NT CEO, both formally welcomed the investment.
It's a huge win for the region. And we're seeing this acquisition strategy play out in urban environments too, like the Belmo Group buying the Royal Albert Hotel in Brisbane CBD.
That's a beautiful property, originally opened in 1913, 73 rooms.
Yeah, you just cannot replicate 1913 architecture with a new build. But the CEO, David Assef, is doing something really interesting.
Yeah.
He's taking this charming, historically significant asset and plugging it into a highly aggressive, modern commercial engine.
Right, which is the secret sauce.
But walk me through that. Like, what does plugging it into a modern commercial engine actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon?
Well, historically, a heritage boutique place like that might rely on legacy property management systems. Manual rate adjustments, lots of direct phone bookings.
Very old school.
Yeah. But Belmo comes in and implements dynamic pricing algorithms. They adjust room rates in real time based on, say, airline capacity flying into Brisbane that day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they integrate the property into global distribution systems, instantly putting that 1913 inventory in front of international corporate travel agents. So they optimize the revenue streams while keeping the physical charm entirely intact.
So it's literally just upgrading the software while preserving the hardware.
Exactly.
And sometimes you don't even acquire a new asset. You just perform a high-wire act on one you already own.
Ha! You're talking about the Adina.
I am. TFE Hotels announced a multi-million-dollar rolling refurbishment of the Adina Apartment Hotel Perth on Mounts Bay Road starting in May 2026.
And a rolling refurbishment is arguably one of the most complex operational challenges you can undertake. Chris Cedric, TFE's COO, is leading this. It's basically changing the engine of the hotel while the plane is still flying.
Right. You have to isolate 3 floors at a time, establish acoustic buffers, manage dust.
All while protecting the property's daily cash flow, especially since this hotel serves the critical Perth Convention and Exhibition Center. They can't just shut it down.
Absolutely. And creatively, they brought in Penny Del Castillo from Studio Del Castillo in Melbourne.
I saw that. Her design is heavily anchored in local Western Australian opals and the Swan River.
Which, again, leans into that hyper-local integration we saw with Carlton.
Exactly. And looking further ahead, IHG is adding substantial weight to their lifestyle portfolio, too. They just signed the Kimpton Kota Kinabalu in Malaysia.
Oh, for a 2031 opening, right?
Yeah. A 350-key beachfront retreat on the Tanjung Aru shoreline. Brian Chan from IHG and Claire Tan from Pika Beach Resorts are partnering on this.
That'll be their second Kimpton in Malaysia.
It will. But honestly, whether you're managing a 1913 heritage spot in Brisbane, doing a rolling refurb in Perth, or laying groundwork for a 2031 resort, the physical building is just a shell.
Right.
Delivering the actual guest experience relies entirely on an invisible, highly complex tech layer.
Which is the perfect pivot to our third theme, the tech frontier.
Let's do it.
Because running a seamless multi-generational luxury experience or coordinating a 200-hectare outback homestead requires immense computing power. According to the Abode Worldwide Hospitality Tech Investment Index, the sector attracted $1 billion in funding between April 2025 and March 2026.
$1 billion. It's staggering. But the distribution of those funds tells the real story. Out of that $1 billion, $408 million went directly into property management systems, or PMS. Muse secured an incredible $300 million raise. Kindred got $125 million, and our sponsor, Canary Technologies, raised $80 million.
So despite all the flashy guest-facing gadgets out there, investors clearly believe the foundational operating system is the most valuable tech real estate.
Without a doubt. If a hotel is an airport, the PMS is the air traffic control tower. Legacy systems are basically humans using binoculars and whiteboards.
They work, but they're slow and reactive.
Right. The new wave of funding is heavily weighted toward AI-native startups. Over half the funded companies in this report were founded after 2020.
Like ZUZU Hospitality in Singapore and communication platforms like Chatlain.
Exactly.
But practically speaking, what is the real difference between an AI-native platform and some legacy system that just bolted a chatbot onto its website last year?
It's like the difference between building a new house and just putting a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling one.
Okay.
I mean, a legacy system with an AI bolt-on can maybe answer a basic text message, but an AI-native PMS is built entirely on machine learning databases from day one.
What does that look like in action?
It doesn't just answer texts. It analyzes historical booking data, checks upcoming local weather patterns, and automatically adjusts housekeeping schedules and room pricing 3 weeks in advance, without a human ever prompting it.
So it anticipates the flight delay before the plane even takes off.
Exactly. And this technology is increasingly solving deeply human psychological problems too.
Which brings us to the food FOMO study.
Yes. A February 2026 study by Opinio, which Burger King Germany commissioned, revealed this incredibly relatable stat. Nearly 50% of diners suffer from food FOMO.
Food fear of missing out.
Right. It's that genuine anxiety people get when staring at a menu, terrified they're going to order the wrong dish and regret it when they see what the table next to them gets.
Oh, I am completely guilty of this. If I order chicken and my buddy's steak arrives looking incredible, my whole evening is ruined.
Haha, you and 50% of everybody else. But the data gets even sharper. For Gen Z, that anxiety rate jumps to a staggering 68%.
Almost 7 out of 10 younger guests are experiencing elevated stress just looking at a traditional text-based menu.
Yeah. And Saba Hospitalities is tackling this problem head-on. Stefan Renzihausen, their executive director of operations, is positioning their mobile ordering platform as the psychological cure.
It's a brilliant application of behavioral economics.
Precisely. Uncertainty breeds hesitation. If a guest is anxious, they either order conservatively, like sticking to a basic burger, or they just decide not to order at all. Saba removes that friction by using highly visual digital interfaces.
So if a guest is lounging by the pool, they see a crystal clear image of a cocktail, exactly what the garnish looks like.
Exactly. And they can customize it on their phone without having to flag down a waiter. Their confidence spikes. And in hospitality, guest confidence directly correlates to higher check averages.
Removing the friction to unlock the revenue.
Yep.
And we're seeing friction removed at the front desk, too.
Uh.
Over in Fiji, the Holiday Inn Suva has launched the country's very first self-service cashless check-in kiosk.
Lachlan Walker, the regional GM for Fiji, and Mohammed Faraz, the Suva GM, drove this deployment with local partner Akshay Chand.
Right. Now, I understand the spreadsheet logic behind operational efficiency, clearing bottlenecks when 80 people get off a flight.
Oh, for sure.
But let me push back hard on this one. Fiji is globally renowned for its deeply personal hospitality. The booming, warm Bula greeting is the cultural cornerstone of their whole brand.
It is.
Doesn't sticking a glowing piece of plastic in the center of the lobby completely kill that famous human connection?
It's a totally valid concern, but I would actually argue it protects the human connection.
How so?
Picture that lobby when 80 tired guests arrive at once. The front desk staff are staring down at their keyboards, frantically typing in passport details, swiping cards, and apologizing profusely for the delay.
That's not a warm welcome.
That's just administrative dread.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By offloading the rigid, transactional friction to a kiosk, the front desk staff are liberated. They can literally step out from behind the counter, hand you a cold towel, look you in the eye, and deliver a genuine Bula greeting.
Oh, wow. Okay, that reframes it entirely. You automate the transaction so you can elevate the interaction.
Spot on.
Well, the capital pouring into these tech integrations and properties isn't moving on blind faith. It's reacting directly to macroeconomic realities. Which brings us to our final segment, macro moves and boardroom shuffles.
Yeah. So we have some critical data to analyze from the Pacific Asia Travel Association, or PATA. They just released their 2026 to 2028 forecast with the Hong Kong Polytechnic University.
And the baseline projection is highly optimistic. They anticipate inbound arrivals to the Asia-Pacific will reach a staggering 761.2 million by 2028.
But the fine print contains a severe warning.
A deeply consequential one. PATA CEO Noor Ahmad Hamid issued a stark caution regarding a lower bound scenario. If geopolitical instability, supply chain issues, or aviation constraints persist, that number could plummet to 599.7 million.
That is a swing of over 160 million potential guests.
Which is terrifying for institutional owners. That level of volatility completely dictates how they manage portfolios. We're seeing this strategic maneuvering right now in Vietnam.
The Hyatt Regency Da Nang Resort and Spa.
Exactly. Ares Management Corporation owns it. It's an expansive 20-hectare, 410-key beachfront asset that recorded exceptional numbers in 2025.
But paradoxically, it's exactly because it performed so well that Ares appointed CBRE as a capital markets advisor to figure out their next move.
Right. When an asset hits the top of its valuation cycle, owners have to ask, do we initiate a high-cost renovation, reposition the brand, or do we divest while the yield is peaking?
Let the next owner absorb the future capital expenditure.
Textbook portfolio management.
And speaking of strategic expansion, Brisbane Airport Corporation, BAC, has launched a global search for operators for 2 brand new hotels.
Scott Norris is steering this with JLL Hotels. They're employing a dual-tier strategy. They want a premium mid to upper tier hotel by the International Terminal and a select service mid-scale offering in the Skygate precinct.
Let's decode that term for a moment. When the industry says select service mid-scale, what exactly does that mean for the guest?
It means high margins and focused amenities. No 24-hour room service, no massive banquet halls, just an excellent bed, a phenomenal shower, reliable Wi-Fi, and maybe a grab-and-go breakfast.
Perfect for budget travelers or flight crews who just need a 10-hour turnaround without paying for a resort pool.
Exactly. Precision engineering.
Love it. And finally, none of this executes itself. We have notable leadership movement to cover. Amora Hotels and Resorts appointed Narej Furik as their new Chief Development Officer.
Over at Peachtree Group, Mike Morey is the new Executive VP of Capital Markets, bringing crucial debt and equity structuring expertise.
Chris Watson has stepped into a new role as CTO at the Ascot Limited, which really signals that major operators are viewing themselves as tech-enabled companies now.
Totally. Plus, our active sponsor made a strategic hire, with Tiraj DJ Singh joining as the new GM of Commercial at Canary Technologies.
And rounding out the week, Alex Shepard has taken the helm as General Manager at Marriott International in Bangkok. Huge congratulations to everyone navigating new roles.
Absolutely. It has been a profoundly insightful week across the sector. And before we close, I want to leave you with a thought regarding that fascinating data point on guest psychology.
Yeah, the 68% of Gen Z.
Exactly. If 68% of Gen Z experiences severe food FOMO today, what happens to hotel food and beverage design in exactly 10 years when that demographic is the primary luxury consumer? Will the traditional leather-bound, text-based dining menu become entirely obsolete?
That wraps up this week's 5-Star Weekly Briefing. Thanks for tuning in and staying informed with the latest in the hotel industry.
Don't forget to check out our 5-Star Conversations podcast, where Brendan Granger from Technology for Hotels sits down with the industry's most influential leaders to uncover their journeys, insights, and the future of hospitality. It's a must-listen for anyone passionate about elevating their guest experience and driving innovation in the hotel world.
Until next time, stay well and stay ahead. See you next week.